Hello, and welcome to What's Your Story? We have an exciting guest for you today. Her name is Michele, and she is an intuitive guide for conscious leaders, authors, and speakers. And she has 15 plus years of deep experience in startup marketing and simultaneously is an advanced healer and mindset trainer with certifications in 6 spiritual modalities. Her flagship program, Sell Your Brilliance, takes individuals through higher conscious marketing strategies and activation processes to confidently launch their heart centered business. Welcome, Michele. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me on, Judy. It's such an honor.
Well, we're so excited. We want to hear about taking our gifts and building a business around it. I know you teach people how to do that, and it took me a little while to realize that the talents that I had were really gifts. And so I want to know how you do this because you're the one that sells your brilliance, and I have brilliance to sell.
Thank you so much. Yes, so I think that along the entrepreneurial journey or along our career journey in general, we don't really have necessarily there are career strategists and there are coaches in school, more or less, but I found that they steered me towards specific types of jobs that in the end I found didn't necessarily align with me. But it was just the preconception that maybe certain individuals had or society have about what makes a good job or not a good job, or is it because it's high paying and et cetera, et cetera. And I do think that from childhood, we don't give enough thought and emphasis on truly what we're talented at, what we're good at, and having a self-discovery process to do that, or even having some space and some time and some pausing to reflect on that, because we are so much on the go. We're so much about, okay, here, what's our next goal? What's the next target to hit? Where are we going next? And so we're in this constant state of, I would say, survival. And that survival is just having this very day-to-day kind of mindset, as opposed to allowing us to broaden our horizons about what we truly desire in our life. And of course, my story started with having that deep desire to find the right environment for myself. And I kept hopping around in different organizations, trying to find that something that I felt was missing for me. And along the way, of course, I found many beautiful talents and skill sets that sometimes you have to discover in an environment that doesn't suit you, because there's that contrast that happens. And sometimes that contrast is exactly what we need to say, okay, I want something different. I want a change. But it does take the courage to allow ourselves to pivot, to allow ourselves to take a little bit of a risk to make some changes in our life, to go a little bit more towards a path of purpose, and to know that it's possible to make money doing that as well. And so I take people through a process of discovering different tools that I have found along the way. Different tools like gene keys. I even bring in a little bit of astrology. And it's really there to serve as a little bit of a blueprint into discovering ourselves and discovering some things that were kind of dormant about ourselves, that we don't actually may not have even discovered in this lifetime yet. And so once there's a little bit of a seed planted in our minds about something we may have an inkling is true about ourselves, then the magic starts to happen, because we start to become a little bit more open to the possibility that we have those gifts. And then new experiences come into play that do help us understand that even more and to be able to nurture shadows even more. So that's a little bit of a summary, but really we delve into a lot of subconscious work, strategy, many other um, aspects of what I've discovered over time in my process, um, and it's a very intuitively led process, along with the strategic positioning of a person, understanding that there are some business elements coming into play. It's not just putting your art in the world, it's really also being mindful of how to design it in a way that's really going to also provide for you as well. So,
Right, right. So, how do we become more self actualized human beings?
mm, yes, it's a great question. I think it's a journey that some of us may not really get to the end of, but as long as you're on a path of continuous seeking and you're wanting to improve yourself, you're constantly thinking about ways that you can upgrade your life, upgrade your business, and your environment, and really all the dimensionality of who you are, then you are getting closer and closer to what would be the highest representation of who you are, the most embodied version of who you are. And it's a process that really helps you uncover your shadows, and that is also part of the whole process as well, is to understand where we have work to do and to embrace that process as well. So it's kind of like shining a diamond a little. We're constantly uncovering our brilliance, which is the a term I like to use a lot. And it just gets brighter and brighter the more we uh, find ways to fine tune ourselves at the end of the day. And the fine tuning is working on ourselves, but also working on our relationships, how we perceive the world. Are we coming from a place of fear, or are we coming from a place of positivity and visualizing the best outcome and things like that? Um, where do we still have places of resentment? Where do we still have places of anger? Where do we have those lower level emotions, and why are we getting triggered in certain situations? Because those triggers are really actually the gold mines. They are there to show us where we still have a little bit of work to do, as long as we perceive it that way, as long as we see it as kind of a game of life. And when things show up in our reality, it's really just an opportunity for us to see ourselves in both the light and the dark. and and when we recognize that and we're able to heal it, then we can move on and upgrade from there. Otherwise, if we don't recognize it, then other situations are going to crop up again for us to learn the same lesson, and it's going to happen again and again and again until you've figured it out.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes we go a little bit of the longer path, and, maybe staying in a partnership for way too long than we could have. We probably knew all along, it wasn't right for us or whatever, but yeah, every instant has its own timing around it. And it's just part of understanding what we're here to do, which is ultimately to learn how to create in the best possible way, how to understand our desires, and to be a little bit more like God, so to speak, in the sense that we are omnipresent and able to create anything we really desire in the world. So. Yeah, I hope that answers that question.
It does, yes, it does. And I find it amazing how many people don't realize that they can create their reality. They can create what it is that they want, that they have this incredible human brain that has the process and the ability, to create all these things. So where and how can we find the intersection between that purpose that we're here to be. First off, I think we have to find the purpose. A lot of us didn't
Yeah.
find that till later in life. But where and how can we find the intersection between the purpose and the profit? Because we still need to make money to live, to eat, to raise our families, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So the first part is to really understand who we're here to serve on a deep level. And oftentimes we get that a little confused. Maybe we go a little too broad with what that is. So it's important to narrow that down. There is information that you can glean even from astrology to help you understand truly what your niche is. And I'm talking about maybe more so, coaches and consultants and service providers. But it can also be the case for companies. I think the worst thing is when you're spread a little too thin and you've got maybe four different industries that you're trying to play into, and each one has its own jargon and each one has its own problems that you have to solve. So, getting very clear on who it is you're serving in a deep level and how your gifts are alleviating their challenges. Uh,
Mhm.
so, that in and of itself, having that clarity can then help you to deeply understand what this person's issues are and then create both again at this intersection of what they need and what you're good at. And when you have that dialed in, when you have that messaging dialed in around that intersection, and also, if you know what role you're meant to play, because a lot of people get confused about the role. Sometimes they position themselves as more of a tech founder or CEO building a multinational company when actually they're meant to be a thought leader and or an educator or something like that. So if you don't have the right role, it's going to create a little bit of chaos for you and misalignment ultimately. So when you position yourself into the right role, and I have an archetype quiz that I can go into that can help you start to uncover what that is. Then you also know the type of design of your business to help facilitate your clients' solutions ultimately. And until then, there's going to be a little bit of mismatch where people are not going to necessarily get what your product service is going to offer them, or there needs to be a constant like tweaking until you finally have arrived to that place where there's that exact match between what you're good at, what they need, what uh, the world needs as well, because ultimately what they're doing has a ripple effect
Mhm.
on their businesses and services, or whatever they're doing has a ripple effect. So you want to also understand what their goals are and overall how that impacts the entire ecosystem overall.
Mhm.
So.
So what is your program, Sell Your Brilliance, and how did you come up with it?
Mm. Yeah, so I also, dug into many different tools to come up with this particular phrase, and it has to do with my client archetype, which is this combination of, if you were to look at astrology, it's a combination of a Virgo and a Leo. And Virgo is a very service oriented person, and yeah, tends to want to kind of save the world type of personality. Is very into impact in some way. And a Leo is somebody that is a leader and also wants to shine in the world, and kind of take, center stage in some way, center stage of their own life, let's say. And so the offering is to really help them to allow other people to see how amazing they are, how brilliant they are, by uncovering the masks that they may be currently creating, and um, ultimately them not being necessarily fully in their authentic expression of themselves. And so we go through a process of initially discovering a little bit more of where they can pivot a little bit what they're currently doing or offering or messaging. So there's a initial discovery part. We go into what is some of their challenges, and sometimes it doesn't have to do with business at all. It is their relationships, their environment, their health. Sometimes your body is showing you where there is a breakdown, and there is a correlation between specific organs and and Eastern medicine has known this for ages. That there is correspondence between your thoughts, your emotions, what's going on there, and how that manifests in your body. And so your body may be showing you where there is a breakdown in the way you're thinking, or the way you're going about the world or perceiving the world. And so we uncover what that is, release that, and what ends up coming through is for themselves is a sudden kind of aha moment of what their next steps are, because they had those blockages before that just needed to be released. And then now it is, how can I imagine a greater vision for myself? Because probably before I boxed myself in a little bit. And so we then go into more of the strategic part. So we start with the spiritual and the healing aspects, and then we go into a more grounded approach of, okay, how can I bring this all together to understand, what do I want to be known for? What are my legacy topics? Um, who am I super here to serve? Getting clarity around that, and then what channels do I need to use in order to spread my message? And that's individual for each person. So it's why I don't have initially I wanted to do a group program, but I don't have a group program for this, because I don't encourage people to go through a follow me process.
Yeah.
I know that each individual is so unique and needs a unique approach to their business, and has a unique focus, an area where they can again use their gifts to do the marketing piece. All right. For each, that might be slightly different, and it also is dependent on where your solo line clients are. Where are they hanging out? Where can you find them in the most places, and where can you touch them in the best possible way? So so we go over that, and again, it's a very kind of intuitive process, but I really blend this background that I have in marketing and business development, and understanding all the different possibilities that exist, and then helping people have this aligned decision making process. where yeah they feel really good about where they're headed next and how to implement now the the embodiment of their message. So yeah.
Uh, so, in addition to your business as an intuitive guide, you're also an author. What is your book?
Yes, I'm part of a multi-author book called Success with Source. And it really does go into my journey of self discovery, having been in some programs that actually were kind of damaging to me spiritually and psychologically. But it was a process that I had to go through in order to understand and have the discernment of what is a truly authentic and good process to go through and what's not. And again, learning through the shadow aspects, I tend to, you know, observe how other people do it. And then in my own way of rejecting it, I come up with my own unique process. But I had to, you know, understand what I didn't enjoy, what I didn't like, as a way to then create something entirely new. And my process did really come about after I did go through a process of surrendering to God, the universe, however you want to call it. And that's when a specific process came through to me, which I had already had knowledge of, but it was more like a piece together for me, which I now call cell method, but it doesn't have anything to do with actually selling and outwardly selling. It's actually more of a process to connect with your higher self, to liberate yourself, and to understand the ways that light you up, because that is very helpful to hold a higher vibration in order to bring in the things that you truly desire. But again, if we don't know what brings us joy, it's very difficult to to then tap into that kind of energy. Um, so yeah, it's a specific method to then be in this place of joy, authenticity, integrity to ourselves. And when we are in that place, we attract people because they can see that.
Hmm.
Um, they can intuitively see that you're in a place of truly true embodiment, and therefore they want the same.
Yes.
They're attracted by that feeling that you evoke, that message that comes through very clearly. And that is truly actually what allows you to sell, quote unquote, yourself. But it's really just attracting people to you through your authentic expression.
That makes sense. It really does. It's amazing. Now, do you speak about I know you're a speaker, professional speaker as well. Do you speak about this topic? Is this
Yes, I do. I have a couple different topics I speak to, one of which is the archetypes, which is again a quiz that I have that people can download. And there's 12 different archetypes, but it is a way to visualize, understand a superhero version of ourselves,
Mhm.
which we are all along. It's actually who we truly are. It's just allowing ourselves the permission to actually be that, to feel like, okay, what would this archetype do in its day-to-day life? Um, how would it create content? How would it flow in the world? You know, and so once we can kind of get into this state of imagining ourselves as this higher representation then magical things can start to really evolve and happen for us. So yeah, I do really enjoy the speaking aspect, and eventually, as part of my own evolution, I hope to also do dance. So I'm saying that as I speak, I will be manifesting, but that is maybe a next phase of because it truly gives me a lot of enjoyment. I do it. I'm not a trained dancer. I do it sort of privately from in my own enjoyment. But I soon kind of want to just demonstrate that other people can do the same and get a lot of joy from it too. So yeah.
Now, you're going to be speaking at the Women Thrive Summit, which is March 18th to 23rd. And what are you speaking about there?
Yes. So I'm speaking about going from soul sucking work to selling your brilliance. And it's again going through some of the modules of my program and giving you a little bit more in-depth tools and ways that you can start delving deep into yourself for anyone that wants to uh, pivot, out of maybe a corporate job or career, or um, you have a business but you're looking at maybe rebranding yourself, changing something up, and ultimately when we're stuck in a kind of boring place or a place of constant hustle, sometimes we need to stop and reflect. Okay, maybe there's a point in place I need to change something about the way I'm going
Mhm.
about this. So yeah, I would encourage anyone to hear it, and I'm super excited for that, and I can't wait to hear your talk as well, Judy.
Thank I'm super excited about it. I've blocked off that whole week so I can just listen to everybody because I've met so many of you, and you're so interesting that I just want to be there for the whole thing. I think it would be
Absolutely.
exciting, yeah. And I'm encouraging everyone I know that they should be involved in it because, well, Women Thrive has been really good for me, and I think it's good for any of us that get involved. And I just kind of pushing people towards it. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Absolutely.
would you like to tell my audience how they can get in touch with you if they would like some coaching or some guidance or some um, information on getting into speaking or whatever? How could they reach you?
Yes, you can reach me at michelleparad.com. Um, please take a look at the free resources space. There's quite a lot in there. There's that quiz I mentioned, and a few other resources. And you can find me also on Instagram at michelle.parad.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you so much for being here today. You are a very interesting person. This has been really great. I've learned a lot and I appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Thank you so much, Judy. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Mhm. And thank you for being with us today. As you can see, we just have one brilliant speaker, one brilliant guest after another. And we just absolutely love for you to continue to join us as we continue to have the various women from the Women Thrive Summit here because they're from all over the world and they have such great information. So join us again as soon as you can right here on WWDBTV.